Well, hello everybody. My name is Luke Sherran, and this is episode 7 of the Strive Mindset podcast. Now, the Strive Mindset is all about personal development and self-improvement, and constantly striving to be better, whether that is within health, fitness, business, or anything else. And following the Kaizen approach of continuous change and making small, incremental, daily changes every day to work towards bigger goals. Essentially always trying to be 1% better every single day. Now, today's topic is all about injury prevention and rehabilitation. So I am joined today by Jonathan Brooks from Brooks Power Systems. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Excellent. Now, for the benefit of everyone listening, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do?
All right. So basically, I'm just a regular personal trainer. I come from North Manchester, from the Chavy side, so I'm down here in South Manchester, living it up.
Nice.
I work out of Total Fitness in Altrincham, just around the corner. Work for ProFit Personal Training, and I've been here for about 3 years. And I came into that from a background in music, and which it sounds strange, but there's a lot of similarities in terms of small changes that you make to someone playing a musical instrument.
Oh, really?
And someone training in the gym can have big effects, and they compound over time with practice. So that's how I've justified it in my head anyway.
Right, just like the same mindset basically.
Yeah, it's oddly similar actually, because usually when I tell my clients, they're like, what? There's nothing similar. But then over time I've developed this sort of understanding that it is quite similar.
Right.
But obviously the music in the gym is terrible, so that's the only difference. When I first got into personal training, I really wanted to work with athletes. That was my big thing. Really wanted to be in strength and conditioning, working with elite athletes, which it's fairly normal. I was competing in powerlifting myself, and I got really into that zone of let's work with athletes and let's help develop these athletes. But obviously, as a newbie personal trainer, your clients aren't going to be elite athletes.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get like Wayne Rooney walking in and be like, can you train me? So I just started working with like the average Joe, people like my parents and my family and my friends at home, and that sort of became my addiction, like making those small changes to the average Joe to make them into the next sort of version of themselves, which is it's sweet. And I actually find it a lot more rewarding than the image I had of working in sport.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at right now. I'm really happy.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that must be in some ways a lot more satisfying, because the changes that you make would be a lot more profound. When you're at like an elite level, I suppose the changes are going to be a lot more minor, I suppose.
They're going to be minor, and they're going to have a minor effect because you're working with people who are already at the top 1%, and you're trying to improve that. And also when you look at the coaches, they go through coaches continuously, and you never provide that much value that they think, I need this person in my life.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling that you get with your clients, and that's amazing thing about the job, connecting with people and not being able to like tell them what to do, but just find things that are going to make them a little bit better and a little bit happier. And that's the job really in itself. Like, it's not just exercise, it's self-improvement, it's Kaizen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love the Kaizen, by the way. Like,
I was going to say, I was reading your blog and I saw that you referenced the Kaizen quite a few times. So yeah, that's extremely good.
Yeah, I can't remember where I read about Kaizen. It was maybe like one of the big self-development books that everyone reads. It's definitely in one of them, and
I'm the same.
It resonates.
I can't pinpoint exactly where it was that I heard it, but it stuck with me for years.
It was early on. It was early on in my sort of reading about self-development.
Yeah. The thing that always stuck with me the most was the 1%. Yeah, 1% exactly. Every day. It's so achievable.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, it's not a big effort. Yeah. But it compounds. It's investment, isn't it?
Exactly.
It compounds over time.
The thing I like about it the most is that, like for bigger goals, things that seem insurmountable at the start, after like a short period of time, you think, well, actually, I can now see the next step. I can see myself getting closer to that. Yeah. And it doesn't seem quite as crazy anymore.
Break things down into these daily actions. And it was in danger of becoming a buzzword for a bit, I think. People were picking it up left, right, and centre. Really? But now it's like it's sort of reverted to its actual meaning. Sometimes you get this, like, with like life as it is now, with like trends and stuff, you'll get words that just get played out, and you think, I can't actually say it anymore, it's too cheesy. Like when we get talking about training, like the word functional, it means something important, but we all go, functional. Like, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm happy that the words still killing it. Well, still survived.
Yeah, I got the feeling that, to be honest, Kaizen was being a little bit overused, because this was almost a Kaizen podcast. And so I did the search and found out there's about 500 podcasts called the Kaizen podcast.
But there's a couple of guys, I don't know if you're familiar with like YouTube fitness. I used to be like hugely into it.
Yeah.
Like Omar, he's
my favorite YouTuber.
And Silent Mike.
Silent Mike from Super Training.
Yeah, they have a Kaizen something.
Oh, they do, but it's spelled differently.
Yeah, I think
no A, isn't it?
They're Americans, so they're just like, oh, it's spelled like that? No, you're okay. It's like Kaizen.
Yeah, and that's their training program, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, there you go. So, obviously I thought it was being something original, and I'm just, same as everybody else.
It's all about the quality, mate.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, before we talk about the rehabilitation side, I think obviously we need to talk about the injury side really first.
100%.
Yeah. And so I'm just curious really, from your perspective, you're in the gym every day. You must see tons of people, not just your own clients, but actually people in the gym every day. I'm just curious, what do you think the most common form of injury is that you see?
Okay, sweet. So the most common form of injury is self-inflicted injury, and it's not usually just snaps and pops. It's pain that we just have and we just accept it.
Yeah.
Especially in the training population, we end up with these guys who their shoulder hurts, but that's just the way they are. Oh yeah, I've got a bad shoulder.
Yeah.
Why have you got a bad shoulder? And it's because it's chronically overused, and we're doing things, we're exceeding ranges, we're exceeding loads that we're supposed to be, and we just accept it, just crack on.
Yeah.
It hurts, but I'll carry on.
Yeah.
That's definitely the most common type of injury. So like things like shoulders, knees.
Oh really? Knees as well?
Lower back strains, and then these pinching feelings that you get in your hip.
Yeah.
These are the most common ones. All PTs get it as well. We're not immune, and those are the most common ones, and they trump the snaps and the pops and the broken bones, the very acute injuries.
Yeah.
So we're looking at like acute injury versus like a systemic or chronic pain, and that's what we're dealing with in the gym every day. You're not going to see like
bicep tears every day.
You're not going to see like horrific injuries, but you will see every day somebody on the bench press who's had shoulder pain for 2-3 years and they're still cracking on, which I think is great. I love that people just think nothing's going to stop me, but we need to have a different thought process about that, because you wouldn't just go to sort of work and be like, you've got a leaking hole in your business and just be like, oh, it's fine. I just crack on, just keep working hard. You'd go back a little bit. I
think a large part of that though is education, because I think most people think, well, especially when you're younger, you get injured. And I remember when I was first starting at the gym, I'd get injured and my way of recovering was, well, I won't train for 3 days or drink a beer and then I'll be better.
Yeah.
And then when you're 35, that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It takes months to get better. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can you might take, when you're young, you might go, right, I'll just do 10 kilos lighter next set. You've like heard a pop and you're like, I'll just cover it. Let's take 10 off.
I'll finish this set. That was always my classic mistake. Was I'll finish this set. It won't matter.
That's a great mindset, but you're applying it in a way which is like really self-destructive. But it is education. We need to. Thought process is a king. Like I'm always talking about thought process. So better than specifics, we need to think about the way that we're actually thinking about the thing. So, for example, looking at the shoulder that hurts, you might get someone say, try this stretch, and we'll just go and stretch the shoulder. Whereas a thought process might be, why does that shoulder hurt? What can I do? How can I strip this down and work on it so that when I get back, this doesn't happen again? And they're always the best way to work at, I think. And it's the best learning as well. I find that the best education improves my thought process, doesn't just give me information. Because I don't learn off that. I just take these things and I'm like, what do I do with it?
Definitely.
You listen to a lot of podcasts, don't you? So those big podcasts, they have an effect on your thought process.
I think so. I think what I do with all these things is, I strip out what I believe is useful.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, if I can change my perspective in some way, that's obviously the most powerful.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm very selective, I think, in what I choose to accept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. The learning that's had the biggest impact on me isn't just been information, it's changed the way I think about things.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit wishy-washy, but when we get into it, hopefully we'll start to pick into these things.
No, I really like it. I think so. One of my other favorite YouTubers is Jeff Cavalier from Athlean-X.
Yeah.
So one of the things I really like about him is, again, he tries to get to the root cause of why you have certain pain.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is when he gets the marker pen out
Yeah.
and he draws pen all over his body to show where hinges are or the direction of muscle fibers.
Exactly.
Or what it may be.
And that helps you think
Totally.
about yourself in a different way, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And the only bad thing about YouTube, I think, not bad thing, but the only tough thing for somebody like Jeff on YouTube is that eventually he has to get to a specific, else we don't watch the video. So he has to get to, there's this joint and it's this hinge and the fibers are going this way, but it's this exercise. And then that's when all the YouTube experts go, oh, well, it could be a number of things, but he has to get to the point where he says it's this to deliver the value. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for these guys who put themselves on YouTube.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Or you wouldn't do it then?
I would definitely do it, but I'd need to be high quality.
Yeah.
It'd need to be ridiculously high quality for me.
Yeah.
Just to be comfy with it, being out there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just to
maybe
let
in
you
the
know,
future.
Yeah, you will never be comfy about anything that involves your face. Just FYI, for someone who's been doing it for 2 years.
I'm stuck with my face now, so I accept it. So I'm covering it up with it.
Yeah, well, I'm on the same kind of mindset with that. So you think most injuries happen due to overuse?
Yeah, overuse and overuse of things that are wrong for your particular body. So it's not just training a lot isn't going to mess you up, but training a lot slightly wrong, it leaves clues. So when you see someone with an elbow or a shoulder issue, it leaves clues that something they've been doing is wrong, because unless it's a snap, you can snap doing exactly the right thing, and that's the fun part of training, is that it could be over any second for life. But these little bits that we're getting with people, they're clues. I've never met someone with a shoulder issue who trains perfectly.
Right.
Just today I was working with a guy who gets shoulder pain, and we made 3 or 4 changes to exercises and techniques, and he can now train pain-free. But it's very important for this particular person that they allow that injury to heal now. Yeah. So we've removed the things that's causing this inflammation and pain. Now we have to let it heal and change the process again. Yeah.
That's interesting. So 2 kind of things that come out from that. I'm probably going to do these in the wrong order, but when you make the changes, do you make the changes all in one go? Did you make 4 changes in one go, or did you make each change with each rep or each set?
Okay. So generally what I'm doing is, I've not been at this for a long time. I've been a PT for just over 3 years, but what I'm seeing, I see a lot of. So I've got a preconceived idea in my head of what's going on, especially when it's in the weight room, because we all do the same stuff. So for this particular guy, if you want to get into specifics, he was using too much range on his pressing exercises. Right. This is a really tall guy.
That's interesting, because most people don't have enough range with their presses.
Exactly, yeah. So we get drilled into all the time that we need to touch the chest, and if you don't, it's not a rep. But that's arbitrary. When we're training muscles and we're training movements, we're not training touching the chest, the bars of our chest. And this guy, this is why I'm happy that we've got a camera now, actually, because I can use this analogy. So this guy is a very tall guy with long arms. So when we think about force, we have to think about where it is in relation to the axis, okay? So the axis being the sternum, this dude had a weight in his hands, really, really long arms. It doesn't take much weight here, if we're thinking about the shoulder, to create a lot of force in here. And he's got a small rib cage as well, so he's a very shallow dude with long arms. So he's doing his pressing.
So he's getting a huge amount of range.
Yeah, he's getting to the point where he's not getting a lot of range at the bar, but he's lost his range at the chest. He's gone outside of it. And we're getting this shearing at the shoulder now, at the bottom of the rep, just so he can get a rep, so people say, yeah, that's a rep, bro, good rep. And his shoulder inside the capsule was just banging up against the edge of it, and you do that, and then we add load because we're trying to get stronger, and we do thousands and thousands of reps, and we get inflammation, and it never goes down because we're not addressing the root cause, which is the execution of the exercise. So we just made a couple of changes, removed some of the range, and we call it useless range actually, because there's no tension on the muscle, and we're just actually annoying the joint.
All going through the joints,
Exactly. So the golden rule of rehab, I threw this on my Instagram before actually, is stop doing whatever it was doing that annoyed it in the first place. And 9 times out of 10, if it's not a very acute injury, the pain is going to go away. Because your body's great at fighting pain. Little bits of inflammation, your body will clear out, no problem. But when we hammer it all the time, we're never recovering from that. So we just have to remove that little poisonous bit of your training and then let it go.
So do you think the individual biomechanics of each person then?
100%.
That's what influences.
Exactly. So like in the case of the shoulder, we're looking at a few things. We're looking at how big is this person's rib cage. So I'm not a very strong presser, so this is my excuse. I've got a very shallow rib cage. Therefore, when I'm pressing, unless I arch my back,
you've got a lot more range.
So if I had this big barrel rib cage, I'd be able to press without taking the shoulder, through this unrange. But when I'm flat, you can see here that my shoulder is out of position straight away. You can see actually, if you look at the line of my arm here, my shoulder is going to be sat forward, pushing into the front of the socket there. Whereas if I'm here, I'm a lot better. I've got exactly. So the mechanics of pressing in this guy's case, rib cage size,
long
sternum
arms.
Angle. So and arms. Length of the arms is massive. So you're going to see your mate who's amazing at bench press.
Short arms and barrel chest.
Short arms, huge big rib cage, and he's probably arching his back a lot as well, which is great. That's how you maximize that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to be aware of our mechanics, because if there's one thing that you can't get around with training, it's your anatomy. It's your individual anatomy. That's set in stone. Your arms are your arms, and your ribs are your ribs, and that's it.
So what would you say are the best ways of preventing yourself from getting injured? This is on the assumption that what we said before is down to long-term chronic kind of self-inflicted
and not just
injury.
a horrific event.
One-off.
So in terms of the one-off events that are horrific,
can you stop yourself from getting the one-off horrific events?
If you're strong, you're going to be less likely to happen. It's going to be less likely to happen. So last year I had a Chinese lady. She was like 61 or something. Obviously she'd never trained in her life, and got out of the van, a minivan one day, and her knee just went everything, PCL, ACL.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, everything. And you can't say this wouldn't have happened if, but the markers were there. Like there was no muscular contraction going on around the joint, and the soft tissue around your joint, the connective tissue, shouldn't be the first line of defense. Your muscles should be. And when they called into defense, they don't like that. Obviously, this was a freak event, but stronger people, to go by the cliche, stronger people are harder to kill, and that's right. So you're going to see less lifestyle injuries with people who have more strength. But back to the chronic overuse injuries, the sort of training wrong, compounding over time. A lot of it is knowing your anatomy. Being aware of these things, and that's why I think it's important that people understand that as a PT, I don't charge for information. My price and my career is made off my time, but my information should be completely free, and I stand by that. So people need to be aware that their mechanics can have an impact on their joint health and their integrity. And then apart from that, it's education. It's all education. If you know about something, you can make informed decisions. And I think a lot of people are doing that, but we're not getting the right information.
It's the source of the information as well. Exactly. Like YouTube, for example. I mean, there's like 1 million fitness vloggers out there.
100%,
And it's like, well, who are the reliable source of information? So I limit mine now to like 3 people. Anybody else, I just take it with a pinch of salt.
It's better to do that, because not everyone out there is going to be given dangerous information. I don't believe that, and I believe that everyone who's putting info out there is doing it for
the right reasons.
The right reasons, But there are contrasting approaches, And if you listen to everyone, you're going to end up spinning your wheels a little bit.
Yeah.
So it is important to close your circle a tiny little bit.
Yeah.
People who are spreading the similar message, so you can action it. But you have to stay aware of the wider thing, else you end up in a niche, one of these little training religions. Religion is like a bad thing when it comes to training and nutrition.
Yeah.
You'll get hemmed in, and it'll cut off that thought process that we talk about.
Yeah, I think Lane Norton calls them zealots, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's not afraid of calling some people
no,
out.
I like his Twitter the most now, because he just calls people out.
Drama.
Yeah, yeah, it is a bit, really. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an incredible dude, and like his knowledge is he's on a war. He's at war with these people, and I think when it comes to nutrition, there is a little bit more of a call for it.
Yeah.
Because there are some people spreading downright, they're just lies.
Yeah.
Usually with training, it's just misinformed.
I don't know. I was looking at him trying to call out these guys fairly recently, and I really believe that the people that are spreading this information, that they really believe it.
Yeah.
But what they can't seem to understand is all their data is anecdotal.
Yeah.
And yeah, it might work for them, maybe. I don't know if they've got any evidence of their own. They're just using everybody else's research.
With the links, you got to link it as well.
Yeah, and they always link it to a blog or this document, or this research paper that's not been peer reviewed or whatever it might be. And it's just like, oh God, it's painful. And for someone like me who I'm not clever enough to actually read those papers.
Especially when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah. So I have to rely on people like Lane to kind of call them out. And I kind of wish, because everyone wants to be happy and friendly and not cause drama. Yeah. But I kind of wish the people that were more educated were more vocal about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you have to strike the balance on it. Because you can end up calling out people left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And I think you have to really see the difference between people who are misinformed and people who are misinforming on purpose to make money.
Yeah.
So there's no need to call out your local PT because he's got his client doing an exercise that you don't like.
Yeah.
Because he's not doing it to earn $1 million. He's probably just misinformed or has his own reasons. And this is why context is massive.
Yeah.
Because we can only make decisions based on what we know.
Yeah.
So it's wrong to call out people that haven't had the full evidence.
I suppose if you genuinely cared or genuinely concerned, you could communicate with them privately without needing to do a big call out to everyone.
But a lot of the reason that Lane's got this popularity is because he's so, that's stupid.
He's dropping F-bombs everywhere and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Which is cool. It's wicked.
Yeah. It's crazy to see.
Not for everyone.
No, definitely not.
And it's funny because like to us people outside of the fitness industry, we're dropping F-bombs and like they were calling it's like battle rap, but it's about food. And like six packs and stuff. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, bizarre. So my last question then on avoiding injury before we get actually into the rehab side is I know age is a factor when it comes to injury rates, but how big a factor is age?
So when it comes to injuries in the gym, it's not a concern.
Okay.
We can if you're like not educated, but if you're aware that you've got someone's grind in the gym, and you tailor the session to that, there's no risk. They're not falling apart. There are things that elderly people need to do, and in terms of their nutrition and in terms of training, that I'm not going to give Leslie a 1 rep max deadlift on her first session.
Yeah.
Because she might actually snap in half.
Yeah.
Like not even talking chronic, we're talking like gone. But there's no reason elderly people can't be resistant training and can't be doing compound lifts. Their body's permitting that.
Yeah.
Because it depends what health they are when they get to you. But there's always improvements to be made with training. And every elderly person who trains with me or the team, they're all doing weights in some regard.
Yeah.
Because, and this ties into the lifestyle factor.
Yeah.
So when we're training when we're young, we're not bothered about lifestyle injuries, really. As you get older, people are coming into the gym because they don't want lifestyle injuries and they want to be strong and healthy. And there are some really scary statistics out there about falls in the elderly populations and how they can lead to hospital, which can lead to things like pneumonia.
Yeah.
And it's a ridiculous mortality rate for falling over.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So I think the resistance training, I think the statistic was, I should have brought my references with me. Lane is going to be calling me out. But about 60% reduction in the chance of a fall at home.
Right.
From this resistance training program. They took, you know, a group of elderly people through a 4-month program, and they weren't doing deadlifts. They were probably just doing some leg extension with no weights and some bicep curls.
Yeah.
Because like we were talking about before, contracting the muscles is huge. It guards your joint and it makes you. I don't know if you, how long have you been weight training?
Since about 16, so
yeah. So did
20
you
years?
did you notice this strange thing that happened when you started training, that you felt like you like owned your body a little bit more?
What are you talking about? A mind-muscle connection?
Yeah, but all the time, like just moving around, you can feel your muscles working.
I don't know. I can't remember. But one thing I did do is I flexed a lot more.
Yeah.
Which probably did,
Exactly.
you know, create a bit more awareness, I suppose.
And now, 20 years later, you're flexing a lot.
Yeah, in the mirror when no
Yeah.
one's looking. Yeah.
But yeah, like a lot of my elderly clients come to me and they say, "Oh, I was squeezing my bicep at home the other day," and you're like, "That's great," because this is an awareness of their body. It's proprioceptive, so they build a picture from outside of their body, what they look like. We've all seen the people in the gym with no proprioception. They've got no picture, and they're like, you know, they say, "Oh, can you just bring your chest up a little bit?" And they go, "Is it up?" No.
Right.
And their proprioception is huge. Resistance training, if there's one thing that we need to get from today, it's resistance training is necessary for elderly people. It's 100% necessary.
Awesome.
So yeah, get your granny some dumbbells for Christmas.
Nice.
Because it can change, well, it can save people's lives, because hospital is a bad place to be when you're elderly.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be there because of a fall.
And you said that 60% improvement was after just 4 months.
Yeah.
So you're never too late to start doing it.
No, 100% not. So I train a 62-year-old, which isn't that elderly these days.
Mm-hmm.
He has never trained in his life before, never exercised.
Oh, wow. That's
ever.
Incredible.
Ever. And he's doing really awesome. But, you know, we're not looking at why is he not trained the past 60 years. We're looking at, well, in 10 years, he's going to be in a much better place than if he didn't walk into the gym.
Yeah.
So I think it's a job of us PTs as well to really get that message out to the elderly population.
Yeah.
And maybe they just think we're all meatheads, but
Maybe.
it's really important.
I think the gym can be an intimidating place for some people anyway, especially if you're older as well. And if you think it's a young person's environment, you think it's going to be an old guy in the way.
Yeah.
So
maybe they need to open up some elderly people gyms.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's so important. When I read that statistic, I was like, damn, like that's huge.
It's pretty significant, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, crazy. Okay, so just before again we move on to this thing, one of the things you said was if there's something that's aggravating you, then stop doing it.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense to me. However, on that note, I'm assuming when you say stop doing it, you mean stop doing it incorrectly.
Yes.
Because there's lots of movements I cannot wait to start doing again. But so just for the benefit of people listening at home or on
the sob
YouTube.
story.
Yeah, you have a little bit of a sob story now. So I injured my back in February. And I have only just had an MRI and I'm awaiting the results. My back feels much better, if I'm honest. But I'm waiting to find out exactly what it's done. It was diagnosed as potentially a bulging disc or herniated disc, which is what was causing sciatic pain. So I had an osteopath who kind of patched me up, and I've been back at the gym doing things, but
I can attest to that. I've seen you back in the gym.
Yeah, but I've been working around the injury. I've been taking it very easy and just doing movements that won't aggravate my back. I'm desperate to do things like squats again, but at the moment I'm scared of doing them. And on your advice, it would be to stop doing them because it was squats really that seemed to be causing the issue at the time. Actually,
sorry, mate.
I was going to say probably more deadlifts actually, if I'm honest, but squats was kind of.
And let's talk a little bit about squats and deadlifts and their effect on the spine.
Yeah,
they're not going to break your back. However, there are ways that the spine is loaded. So if we have the spine here, we've got compressive load, which is pushing this down on the spine and driving the vertebrae and discs together. Yeah. And that's not amazing. But in healthy spines, it's great. Now, if you imagine there's a disc just popping out a little bit, a tiny little bit. Yeah. We load it, and then the disc pops out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And what are we pressing into there? We're pressing into connective tissue and nerves. And we're getting that sciatic response. So compressive loading is an amazing idea when you've got something like that, or potentially you got something like that.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about deadlifts. So we know that you don't deadlift with a bar on your back, hopefully. So it's a different kind of loading. It's called shear force. So if we have the spine, this is Luke doing a deadlift with a perfectly straight back.
Of course. Yeah.
And what's happening is that this weight is trying to pull you over.
Yeah.
And it's trying to pull you down to the floor, and that's the shear force. But what happens is that the spaces, if you imagine the discs like this, they're closing on one side because your back's rounding, and the gap on the other side is opening up. And that disc, that spongy disc in the middle, your body's basically trying to pop it out of the back of your spine.
Yeah.
And like those are things that in a healthy spine can be great, but with a potentially bulging disc can aggravate that.
Yeah.
So when physios and PTs say things like avoid the squat and deadlifts, we take it into our minds as that must be what broke my back.
Yeah.
It has to be, because the physio said don't do it. What we should be saying, the language is so important when you're dealing with injuries. We should be saying, I want you to avoid compressive load and shearing load, and then understand what that is, because then you know, right, well, until I've got this bulging disc gone, then I can't compressive load because my disc is going to shoot out of my body at the back. Not, I can't squat or deadlift.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's different.
Yeah. So, okay, two things on that note. One is that analogy was actually really good because my osteopath explained it to me as your discs are a bit like balloons, and if you squeeze one side, they bulge out of the other.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that fits in really well with my understanding of that. The second thing that you said was, so I think a lot of healthcare professionals don't seem to understand squats and deadlifts. So I feel like you need to speak to someone that knows about sport and knows about training.
Yeah, 100%.
Because everyone seems, you said the word deadlift to an osteopath and like, don't ever do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I really don't know why that is. It's unfortunate. But
over the years, I've been told so many times by GPs and stuff, don't do weight training. What are you doing weight training for? It's dangerous.
Exactly.
Dangerous.
It's dogma.
Yeah.
It's not dogma in the sense that it's malicious, but they're just repeating it without the thought process.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when I'm about 65, my body's just broken. I'll be like, yeah, you shouldn't have done any of that.
Yeah.
But it's huge, and resistance training has more benefits than anything. It's amazing. Squats and deadlifts are part of that, and it's never the exercise, it's the effect on your body. So we're talking about these forces. Some people it's applicable for, some people it's not. So let me give you another example of someone who might want to avoid a little bit of shearing force. So I've got a client who's got a ridiculously long spine. Okay. You've seen this dude walking down the street, you'd be like, that guy's got a long back.
Oh, really?
Very short legs. Okay.
That's kind of like
his spine is ridiculously long. Okay. And then, like we said before, we've got the lower back at this end. We've got the head up here, and we load this end with a small amount of force.
Yeah.
Okay. We get a lot of force down here, and that's true. Whether it's a deadlift or you're picking up a box off the floor, you're gonna be creating a lot of. If people knew the forces that were acting on their pelvis all day, you would be scared. You wouldn't leave the house. You'd be like, what? 3 tons?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I load a little bit of force up here. I get a massive response down here. And then if he gets a little bit out of shape, we amplify that force down here. So maybe deadlifts aren't going to be a massive part of this guy's training program. Yeah. Which I'm fine with. But to say that we need to avoid the deadlift as a general thing, that's not good information. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. Okay, so just out of curiosity, is it possible to rehabilitate any injury? So, for example, particularly back ones. I've got a fondness for back injuries at the moment.
Yeah.
So is it?
Get my page turn for the hour done.
Oh, you got some stuff. Is it possible to work with any injury, or is there something you just completely have to avoid? Or
for me, as a personal trainer, I have to adhere to a scope of practice. So I can work with muscles, I can work with joints, I can work with strength and fitness. I can't prescribe based on I'm going to heal this with you. Yeah, that is a job of a physiotherapist. But I can take a look at positions and weaknesses and strength and manipulate those to the point where you are injury free, and I've done it by accident,
right,
under scope of practice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know, you should know what you're doing, but we also know about scope of practice. But in terms of, can any injury be rehabbed? I'm glad that you said at the spine, because I was thinking like internal beheadings and things, like maybe not. But in terms of the spine, the most common injuries, we can rehab all of them, and we're good to go. And like I haven't encountered a spinal injury that hasn't been able to be rehabbed through strength, mobility, stability, proper muscle activation. And a lot of the times when you get people with spinal injuries, they're already working alongside a physiotherapist, which is amazing, because then you've got license to go and bounce off a great physio. But yeah, I haven't encountered anything that can't be rehabbed. I mean, it's a spectrum. So you might have someone who's just the bottom of the back is fused. Which probably isn't the word you thought I was going to be saying. No. Is fused. There's no getting around that. Or a lot of crushed discs, a crushed vertebra. We can't heal bones. Your body has to heal those. So.
So, I mean, I think as I was reading on some statistics myself, and I found out that actually a bulging disc, for example, is incredibly common. So
most of us will have one at some point.
But it's the extent of it.
Because yours is pressing on the sciatic nerve. So you go, oh, hello. Sciatica.
God, it was a sciatica that was killing me because I couldn't sleep. It was bad enough trying to walk around, but it was a sleeping that was a nightmare. But so from your perspective, if I said to you, right, I want to start squatting again, you would be able to help me rehab that, would you?
That would be the goal. 100%. The goal with rehab, when you come to me, is always to exceed your original performance markers. So what did you squat when you were training?
Just raw squat was probably about 150. So
the goal would be to exceed that. That when you squat 151, rehab's over and training can resume. Everything up to that point is rehab, because you haven't presented a new level of strength and a new level of skill. So rehab's not just, Luke's doing a squat with an empty bar on his back. This guy can squat 150. That's not rehab.
For any American people listening, that was 150 kilos, not 150 pounds. I'm not that weak. So
what is it, 330, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
That's the thing. If you watch YouTube, you get to learn all of
the pound differences and stuff as well, Everyone's running about 225 bench. 225 bench, that's insane. It's like, no, it's pound. That's awesome. So that's good to know. So what would the process kind of look like?
All right. So the process for a spine injury, and the word injury sounds worse than it is when we're talking about the spine, because technically it's a spine injury, but I like to think of it as it's just a misalignment that we need to coax back to health. An injury sounds like Luke's just going one day and never moved again. So the first part, and we've said it like 4 or 5 times already, is always about education. So if I can get you to know every muscle in your core, every muscle along the posterior chain, what they all do, how they work together, and have you consciously contracting those muscles, that is an amazing platform. I wouldn't be rehabbing someone 6 weeks down the line to go, just tuck your hamstrings under there, and they go,
what's a hamstring?
That's a failure. That's doomed. So it's always education first, and we talk about the core, and we're not thinking about, if I say, Luke, what's in your core, we don't say abs. This might be important for people who are watching, who've got spine problems, who have been told they need to strengthen their core. So the core, we need to think about it like a barrel. It's one of these barrels, and it compresses and from every side, and compression is good. We've just been saying that compression might be something that you want to avoid. Compression inside the core, we call that intra-abdominal pressure. And this pressure stabilizes our spine, because a lot of the time spine problems are not from not moving, they're from too much movement at the spine, because your lumbar spine, the bottom of the back, isn't designed to move a hell of a lot. And it needs to be given stability by the hips and the core. So the bottom of your core is the pelvic floor. We can't do a lot of moving at the pelvic floor unless you go to some weird yoga classes. And the top of it is a diaphragm. We can move the diaphragm loads. It's like a little, what do you call one of these musical instruments?
I know what you mean.
Accordion.
Is it accordion?
Accordion.
I'm glad you said that.
I was thinking of those valve things.
Yeah.
And then on the front, we've got rectus abdominis, which is a six-pack, which everyone like, going to get a six-pack.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you've been told by the doctor to get a six-pack. You're like, yeah, get me one of those. And on the back, we've got not only the hard tissue of the spine, but the erector muscles. And if we can take that box and fill it with pressure, what's inside there, the lower back, is going to be stabilized. And that's how lifting belts work, actually. If you've ever worn a lifting belt, you breathe out into the belt
against it,
and it helps create pressure.
Yeah.
And that's how we stabilize.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And an awareness like that, learning how to breathe, is huge.
Yeah.
So we breathe with the diaphragm. We don't breathe up here.
Yeah.
Because the pressure is nothing up here.
Yeah.
We need it down here. Have you heard Elliott Hulse before?
Yeah.
Strength camp. Breathe into your balls.
Yeah.
That guy. So it's similar principles.
Yeah.
So that's where education becomes massive, and yeah, that's what I have to say about that. So education is the first stage.
Yeah.
The second stage, we need to stabilize the base. Okay. And when we talk about the base, we're talking about the feet. Okay.
Okay.
Because we connect with the floor all the time. When you're loaded with a bar on your back, that force goes through the floor. When you want to produce force against the bar on your back, it starts at the floor. When that's misaligned, we end up with things up the chain. So if I can use my hands to describe this is going to be amazing.
It's going to be quite difficult for some of the people listening, but yeah, go on, let's try to explain it as best you can.
My elbow on the table is my foot.
Yeah.
Okay. And my knuckles are the knee.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got this straight force through. Force likes to go in straight lines.
Yeah.
If my foot is off, this linear force is no longer in line with my foot. My knee's doing a lot of work. Okay. Yeah. So then what's going to happen at the hip? The hip's going to shift in and be moving in unstable positions. And what does the hip connect to? The lumbar spine. And then the spine is put in positions where it could be moving a lot.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to stabilize from the foot to the hip. So when we talk about stability, we talk about the foot and the hip. We don't actually talk about stability of the lumbar spine because it's a byproduct of other things.
Yeah.
So we need to get great connection with the floor and get a good level of strength at the hips.
Right.
So you know that I train glutes a lot with all of my clients. This is why, because they stabilize that big hip joint. I
guess for a lot of people as well, they have certain muscles that aren't really activated very well as well.
Exactly.
Is that why you use a lot of the band work? I see you do a lot of band work.
So we think about muscles in two regards. So you've got your force producers. So these are big muscles like the glute max and like the lat and like the pec. And then we have the joint stabilizer muscles, which are often very short and small, and we neglect them.
Yeah.
Things like glute med, piriformis.
Piriformis, don't even talk to me about piriformis.
Have you been rolling it?
I shouldn't have done, but yeah, I have. When I first had sciatic pain, I self-diagnosed on Google
Piriformis syndrome,
and I thought it was piriformis.
Yeah.
So I was like, actually, my hips do feel tight, and I do sit down all day, and I was stretching it and rolling it, and I was like, no, I've probably made things a million times worse.
So we need to stabilize the hip for the lower back to be stable. So stability is always a priority. Stability means muscular contraction, okay? So ownership of the joint via your muscles. Stability doesn't mean standing on a Bosu ball and wobbling around. That's not stability training. That's doing fancy stuff for Instagram. Stability is the result of proper muscular contraction. And if it means training like a bodybuilder, that's what it means.
Yeah.
Muscles are muscles. To Ronnie Coleman, his bicep made his career.
Yeah.
To your gran, her bicep helps her pick mugs up off the table. Muscles are muscles,
All respond to the same stimulus.
Exactly, yeah. Stability is huge. After stability, we can talk about mobility, okay? Because
A lot of people seem to lack mobility in like ankles and hips.
Exactly,
and stuff.
And the internet, we're guilty. We got mega horny for mobility a few years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like everyone was mobilizing every joint, like just like yogis. But without stability, mobility is potential for injury.
Yeah.
So we're working through, like I was talking about before, some of that useless range. Under load is a potential for injury.
Yeah.
Especially when we talk about the spine, because the big lumbar discs at the spine, they're not designed to move. But the thoracic spine, if we think about the hip sort of up here, that's designed to flex and move, not the hip, the bottom of your rib to your collarbone. That's designed to move a lot. And when the lumbar spine is unstable and moving when it shouldn't be, this locks down to compensate. Your body isn't stupid. Like, my brain might be stupid, but my body is smart. It knows, so it's going to lock this down. It's going to say, hey, dude, we can't move anymore because we're messing this up further down the chain. So we can only talk about mobility once we've got joint stability. Okay? It sounds weird. Like, you can only talk about moving once you get good at being still.
Makes perfect sense.
I mean, a lot of the things that we talk about, we start with the opposite. It's really weird. So I'm trying to think of like a really good example. Coaching like retraction with our clients, shoulder blades coming back. We always start with protraction because it makes it easier to come back. The further you are forward, you can get. So the more stability you have, the more potential for good movement you've got. We always stabilize first before we mobilize, especially if you've got a disc issue, because stability is your friend. Mobility can potentially be the enemy here. Hypermobility is something that people have, but you can be over mobile at a joint with an injury for sure. More mobility isn't always the answer. If I was to choose one, which I probably shouldn't, I would err on the side of stability always. You're much safer with that.
I think there's certain muscles that just need to be like almost like stiff, if you know what I mean.
100%. Overstretching
and overstretching and over mobility, it just weakens things.
Stretching is one of those things that we need to be careful with, to be honest, because you're increasing mobility at a joint. We got back to this cause before. There's a reason that these things are locked down. I hate this word as well, holistic. There's a holistic reason that why these things are locked down. So if I didn't know you had a bulging disc and your thoracic spine was locked up, I might go, oh dude, like your T-spine is so tight, like let's give it a crick. Let's roll it out. But not only am I
making increasing, me sweat just thinking about it, doing that.
Not only am I increasing mobility at a joint that doesn't want it, it's just going to come back the next day because your body's like that for a reason. Stretching, I don't do a ton of stretching. I'm probably not great advert for not doing a lot of stretching, because to couple not stretching a lot, I'm not very mobile, but I am stable.
One thing I used to do, which was a big mistake, is I used to stretch before weight training, but that caused me all kinds of problems. But stretching after training was fine. It's just, again, it's finding the right time to do it. I felt like I was losing stability, particularly when I was like stretching things like my chest and my shoulders before bench press. I was like, and then we're not helping with that range. Exactly.
You're increasing the range.
Yeah, exactly. Recipe for disaster.
Stretching is a really interesting one. Really interesting. It's the thought process as well about it. A lot of people say, don't static stretch, it's bad. Do dynamic stretching because it's good. What? Like, some cases, static stretching is going to be great. Are you going to stretch an elite footballer's quads for 20 minutes before he goes to play a game? No. Might we stretch Barbara's pecs a little bit so she can do some pressing? And we have to be careful of the research. A lot of the research that have like vilified static stretching is like, it's crazy the bias that some of these papers go to prove a point. So I've seen papers on static stretching where the stretches have been held for 20 minutes.
That is insane.
20 minutes. Of course you're going to get a power.
Why are they biased? Normally there's a reason for them being biased.
I don't know.
Is that because you want to be proven right, or because they're trying to sell a product?
Possibly, Well, either or. You have to look at who's funding it.
Exactly.
But I'm not massive on research. I like being aware of it, but I make my own decisions based on everything that's available.
Yeah.
And there's a hierarchy of evidence, and anecdotal evidence is on there. It shouldn't be your only evidence, but it's on the hierarchy.
Yeah.
And, you know, PubMed shouldn't be your only one either. It's just as bad. They're just as bad being completely biased towards this type of evidence or this type of evidence, because you lose the thought process. So
yeah, definitely.
What were we talking about?
I don't know. We've strayed a little bit again.
Sorry, I knew it was going to be rabbit holes everywhere.
Well, one thing I'm interested in is coming back to the back issue again, just for a minute. Is so like with my osteopath at the moment, because I was waiting for the MRI scan, I kind of stopped treatment for a little bit. And to be honest, I'm no longer in pain. I feel better. However, I don't feel like it's getting any better, if that makes sense. And that's why I think a lot of people, but well, it's my back now. It's ruined forever. It's done. I just need to just work around it, adapt my training and everything else. But really, I'm thinking, well, I want to know if I can rehab it and get better. Like you said, if I could get back to the level that I was before and then start progressing again, that'd be the dream.
That's rehab.
Yeah,
that's done.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, have you ever thought about your connection with the floor?
No.
Okay. Have you ever stabilized your hip, like intentionally stabilized the hip?
No.
Have you ever thought about your breathing and the core as this pressure mechanism?
Yes.
While squatting and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are things right now that we can do that are going to improve it straight away.
Yeah.
Even if we're not obviously I can't look at the disc issue. We can improve your hip stability. We can improve your floor connection.
Yeah.
And these are all things that make up good rehab. So it's hugely possible, mate. Like I haven't run into anybody who can't be at the least massively improved. And we're scared of our backs as a society. We're terrified of them.
It's because it hurts like a bitch.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those few injuries where like, if you get injured with a shoulder, you're like, well, okay, I'm going to train legs for the next 6 weeks. Whereas if you injure your back, you can't do anything.
Sleep on the floor.
You can't, because it stabilizes everything. You can't even do arm curls. You know,
exactly. Yeah, and that's because there are levers. You know, we've got this force here. It's like it's the tone here. So I completely agree with that. And if you mess your back up, you know about it. But in the same way, you need to be working with somebody who's not terrified of backs. Yeah. Because I've had clients work with people before who are just as scared of their spine as they are. Yeah. And nothing ever happens. Yeah. You know, even if you do get some weight on there, it's 2 kilograms. Yeah. We're not training the force producers to produce more force, and we're not training the stabilizers to stabilize the joint. Yeah. Because we're too scared. And on the other side, you don't want someone who's going to push you too far recklessly. Yeah. And in the middle is where I am, pretty much. Like, I don't fear people's backs, but I respect people's injuries for sure. Yeah. And that's massive. Because when you do get injured, it sits in your head for a long time.
I'm going to say now, I'm at the point where I don't know if my back's better or not. And it's psychologically there because I'm really thinking about my back and conscious of it all the time. Whereas before I wasn't. Yeah,
and language is huge. Like the language people use to talk about your back. So for example, like I've got a client who gets a twinge every now and then in the gym. He's so much better now. We've done all of the things that we talked about. He's able to go back to golf, which is a massively rotational sport. Pain-free, but every now and then in the gym we get a lot of, actually that just hurt a little bit. I'm not scared of this. I would have been 2 years ago, and I've gone, oh my god, David, like
stop,
let's go to the osteo right now, let's take you. That breeds fear. Whereas we say, now I talk about pain as if it's feedback. Yeah, that's just feedback. You know, if it's an exercise, let's just leave this exercise, we'll find another one. There's no need to push the pain. Yeah, but there's a reason to have great relationship with it. Yeah, and just say like, okay, that hurt. That's feedback from my body. I'm taking it on board and I'm moving on.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, when it comes to rehabbing as well, I appreciate it's going to be absolutely completely different for every person. But what kind of time frame do you look at? I mean, can you assess someone and have a good idea as to how long you think it's going to take, or is everyone just completely different? And
I love a number in my head of like months maybe. Yeah. And performance markers will set. So we'd like to be having some resistance training by this point. Yeah. But honestly, I can't.
I guess everyone responds differently. Exactly. Everyone trains differently. And
there are people who are more intelligent than us. It usually helps. Yeah. So, and the training age, someone's never been trained before and they're coming in with an injury, and I'm talking about muscles and I'm just speaking all this like foreign language.
Yeah.
That's going to take longer because the learning curve is not steeper, shallower.
Yeah.
Whereas you might know a lot about it, so your rehab may be quicker. Also, diligence is huge. So I've written here in huge letters, athletes do this diligently.
Right.
Okay, so rehab, guess who rehabs quicker than everybody else?
Athletes
And people on tons of steroids. We're not saying athletes are on tons of steroids, but athletes do their rehab. You'll see them in the gym. They will come into the gym even if it's just for 2 exercises.
Yeah.
And they'll rehab it like it's a training session, and then they'll go home.
Right.
And they won't go, oh, just do a quick set of bicep curls. This is the level of diligence that you need to rehab quickly. You have to treat it like it's a training program.
Right.
And it should be. I know.
It's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, athletes do it. You know, oh my God, I can't believe he's rehabbed an ACL in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
You should have seen what he was doing.
Yeah, I remember George St.
day.
Pierre when he had all his operations,
Exactly.
the stuff that he was doing.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting to me because he was posting all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that doesn't look like a very effective exercise.
Yeah.
But for him, that was very hard.
Exactly.
And he was trying to reintroduce the strength back into certain muscles and everything else.
And they push it as well. The 2 things that athletes have over general population when it comes to rehab and injury, aside from the sort of, this is my job, let me fix my body,
Yeah.
is they do it diligently. They don't skip sessions. If I'm telling you to come into the gym to do a plank, they'll be there and do the plank. You know what I mean? Even if it means, because I had this conversation with my client the other day. We were talking about rehab. She said, "Oh, I could do this at home," and I was saying, "We need to come to the gym to do it because you need to treat it like it's important." Yeah, exactly. We don't do rehab in front of the TV. We do it in the gym.
That is the thing.
And she came to the gym and she trained, and she was like this feels. It feels better. We barely did anything.
Yeah.
And she's amazing at training, and like she's gonna do so well in the rehab. But it's important to do it in the gym as well. You know, would I trust her to do it at home? 100%. It's different, and I'm not sure why it's different. It's like
mindset, isn't it?
It's mindset. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I will often say, because I've got some equipment at home now,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm like, oh, do you know what? I'm gonna be really late because I'm working late.
Yeah.
If I go to the gym, it's only gonna be open for another half hour.
Exactly,
I'll do it when I go home. I'll just go home. I'll do a session at home, and then if I do it, it's very half-hearted.
Yeah.
It's because you just haven't got the same mindset on it at all.
Unless it's bicep curls for a night out, you
Well,
won't
exactly.
take that serious.
Yeah.
But it's like an environmental thing, I guess.
Yeah.
If you go out of your way to do something, you do it better.
Yeah.
So one of my big things for me when I started work is it was almost impossible for me to get to work.
Yeah.
I would take 3 Mets and a replacement bus, and it would take me 2.5 hours. But when I got there, that was amazing for me because I thought, right, I've got here now.
Yeah.
Let's go to work. Let's do it. And that's the same thing. It's that same kind of mental loop that you put yourself in.
Yeah.
And it's really important for rehab, 100%.
I do that with all kinds of things. Like for certain people, I will, like for example, when at work, this is non-fitness related now, but I will wear different clothes that make me feel more special because you know it puts me in a different mindset.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get that. That's something definitely resonates with me. I'm just conscious of time, so I have a couple more questions for you. Yeah.
Should we do like a quick fire?
Yeah, why not?
Quick fire, aka like 10 minutes per question.
Yeah. One big question I do have that's left is if you are injured and you are looking to get some rehab, how do you really identify a good trainer? How do you determine if they're good? Is it qualifications? Is it experience? How do you do it?
Oh, man.
I mean, this must be hard. I mean, this is a general question for PTs anyway, I think.
This is a really hard question because I don't have a ton of experience, and I don't have a ton of qualifications either. I learn for every day, like at least an hour every day. I make this part of my life, and the biggest thing that I like to think about is how many questions are they asking you before they act? Yeah. Because understanding is everything when it comes to rehab. Yeah. How did you do it? What does it feel like? What's your relationship like with the pain? Have you trained before? These are questions that people need to be asking, not going, my knee hurts. Right, well, let's go and...
Well, here's a cookie cooker program.
Yeah,
and,
let's go and do a leg program.
Yeah.
And get it stronger. Whilst that might be like, the intentions are great, you'll find that people that you want to work with ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And they're not being picky.
Yeah.
Well, they might be. But more information is more tools to use, and
deeper understanding, basically.
That, yeah, exactly. You get a better understanding, and that's before you do anything.
Yeah.
So obviously, because I'm not very experienced, I don't have a ton of qualifications.
You can't
I
say
would put those
20
at the
years
bottom of the
experience.
list.
Yeah.
I would put that at the bottom of the list,
Yeah.
and I would put above this that they're seeking to understand. The amount of times I've had someone in a consultation, and they've told me something, and I've gone, I don't actually know what that is, but we're gonna find out together.
Yeah.
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 It's all about understanding and willing, and understanding when you need to refer is huge as well.
Yeah.
So when someone comes in a neck brace with 2 canes, I'm gonna do okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be looking elsewhere. But
Yeah.
all of the best coaches that I know ask a lot of questions, and their approach is very not laid back, but it's relaxed. When you go into rehab,
Yeah.
they tell you pre-frame, look, it's not going to be a difficult session. How does this feel after every exercise?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more? Educating you. You should know a lot about your injury. You should be an expert on backs by the time you're finished rehabbing this, if you're working with the right person. If you're not, your back might get fixed, but you won't know anything about it.
Yeah. You won't know how, I guess, as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's my weird answer to that question.
I really like that answer, and I think that definitely resonates, because the people that I've been to see that I thought that I've respected and thought they know what they're talking about, they ask me a ton of questions.
Yeah.
Like the osteopath, the first session I had with her, I think we spent the first 45 minutes trying to diagnose how it all happened and what lifestyle.
That's fantastic.
Things
mate.
I had, yeah.
That's really good. The worst case scenario is you just get on and they just give
Start
you a
cricking your back.
manipulation.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Like, it's not even like why are you doing it. It's why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what's your evidence?
Yeah.
So yeah, questions above everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really like the answer. I think it's a really good answer. Very last question.
Cool.
I have loads more questions, but this is going to have to be my last one because of time. When you emailed me, one of the things you said to me was, or a possible topic is why rehab can be the best thing that can happen to you.
Okay.
I want you to explain that.
Okay.
If you can.
Yeah. I've got it right in front of me.
Okay.
So rehab is the best thing that can happen to you because, one, you stop the thing that you were doing that either caused the injury or is causing the annoyance to your body. You just stop it because it's rehab time.
Yeah.
Secondly, we start doing the things we should have been doing the entire time. So we do the stability work, we do the mobility work. Thirdly, it forces us to do something that we don't really like doing. Mm-hmm. Do you know what that is? It's rest.
All right.
You force yourself to rest because you physically can't train.
Yeah.
And then the last one is it allows you to come back better with more education, with more tools in your toolbox. And honestly, like, rehab is such an exciting time. When my clients like get an injury, a lifestyle injury, or come to me, I'm like, let's go, let's do this. Like, and they're like, you do realize I can only do like bird dogs for the next 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, sweet, it's great.
Right.
And that's why it's amazing.
Right.
Like, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Honestly, is an opportunity.
Yeah.
That sounds like such like Zen thing to say, but
to be honest,
it's a massive opportunity, mate. Like,
I think, I understand it because I think you feel like in some respects, like say if we were squatting, I feel like I was quite good at squats.
Yeah.
Now I don't feel like I could lift anything. But I think in some ways it's quite good because at one point I was very concerned about chasing numbers.
Yeah.
And it kind of led to a bit of a devolution of form
Yeah.
because I'm more interested in getting the number.
Naturally
Yeah, and start losing some of that form.
Yeah.
And I think, well, actually, maybe it'd be better to kind of knock all that down,
Yeah.
start again from the ground up,
Yeah.
and kind of rebuild with a bit of a stronger foundation.
Yeah. So the way I talk, like, I'll just say 2 more things.
Yeah.
The way that I talk about my clients when it comes to pushing numbers, presenting an overload is a massive part of training, and that means getting stronger, and getting stronger means lifting heavier weights.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it.
Yeah.
But lifting heavier weights with worse form isn't an overload. It's actually not, because you're probably creating less tension in your muscles.
Yeah.
And you're in a worse position.
Yeah.
So the way I like to talk about it is we either shoot for another rep with exactly the same execution, the same reps with increased load with exactly the same execution, or you do exactly the same weight and exactly the same reps with better form.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are all legitimate ways to force adaptations from your body. We don't always have to chase load.
Yeah.
And just going back to the why the rehab thing is better, there's a concept called virtual surgery. I don't know if you've heard of this.
No, never heard of that before.
Dr. Stuart McGill, you've probably heard of.
No.
He's BackFit Pro on Instagram.
Right.
Sorry for stealing all your stuff for the past hour. He's amazing. He's got a great mustache as well.
Oh.
He's like the daddy of spine rehab.
Right.
And he does this thing called virtual surgery where you act like you've just had surgery, major spinal surgery. You rest first, then you do your rehab like your life depends on it, as if you've just been under the scalpel.
Yeah.
And he says like 8, 9, 10 out of the times, that need for surgery is gone after the imaginary rehab.
Right.
That's how powerful a tool rehab can be. It can also be a preventative tool, and we call it prehab. So
yeah,
that's a really cool concept.
I like that.
That's from his book, The Back Mechanic. Awesome book.
So who would that be for? Would that be for someone who's injured? You said like prehab.
Yeah.
Who would it be for then?
Everybody should read this book, because most of us, if we don't train, we're going to run into back pain at some point of our life. And if we do train, pretty high percentage of us are going to run into back pain.
Yeah.
As a coach, it's really valuable information. As a general population person, it's really valuable information. It's digestible as well.
Yeah.
And it really just hammers home. He's American as well, so he's bringing up the concept of people want to get you under the knife. Because
because it's money. It's a business.
It's money. Fortunately, we don't have that in our society. But yeah, it's a really cool book.
Fascinating.
I've actually got it, so that you're going to read it.
I never have time to read, but I will get the audiobook version.
Oh yeah, he probably narrates it in a really cool way as well.
All right,
it just looks like a cool dude.
If they narrate it themselves, that's even better for me, because I hate the standard kind of,
like
I
Siri.
am the voiceover man voice,
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much for coming in. If people want
Thanks for
to
having me,
contact you, how can they do it? Where can they find you online?
So my biggest platform right now, me and you were talking about this before in terms of the visual content, is Instagram. I post daily, and my stories are always full of hopefully educational and informative information, and I'm always checking my messages. I'm always asking for messages, so if anybody has heard anything that they want to know a little bit more about, throw me a message on Instagram, and I'm at j.brks.
So that's j.brooks, and I'll put a link to that in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to give this lovely video a like and subscribe for more videos. And if you've got nothing else to say,
that's it, mate.
I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.